Welcome back, everyone. So today we're unpacking a really fascinating and honestly deeply unsettling piece of source material. It dives into this bizarre modern digital mystery. The title translates roughly to "What was found on Google Earth terrified people." And, well, that's going to be the foundation for our deep dive investigation, or tahqiq, today. You know, we rely so heavily on satellite imagery to navigate our world, right? We just kind of assume it gives us this flawless, totally objective mirror of reality. But this explainer is going to break down a documented instance where that mirror literally cracked. We're going on a pretty dark atmospheric journey here, filled with digital glitches, sudden censorship, and a massive internet rabbit hole that left thousands of users questioning what on earth they were actually looking at.
Okay, let's dive into this, because it all really starts with one simple but kind of chilling question. Are there places on Earth we just aren't meant to see? I mean, we're so used to having the entire globe right at our fingertips. We can zoom into our old childhood neighborhoods or, explore completely different continents with just the scroll of a mouse. We trust these platforms implicitly. But the material we're looking at today poses a massive challenge to that trust. It introduces this really eerie, suspenseful realization that our seemingly transparent digital maps, they might actually be holding terrifying, deliberate secrets just out of our normal field of view.
Section 1. A chilling digital discovery.
So the entire phenomenon really hinges on this single data point, a specific string of mysterious, totally obscured coordinates. And get this wasn't in some highly populated city or a well-known military zone. No, this environment was completely isolated, totally disconnected from everyday human activity. And honestly, that makes finding a bizarre, glitching digital artifact in that exact spot so much more jarring. The source material puts a huge emphasis on this precise moment because it was the ultimate catalyst for literally everything that followed. Think of these coordinates like a digital key that unlocked a door nobody even knew was there. By focusing in on these exact numbers, this seemingly endless, uniform expanse of forest suddenly yielded a highly targeted point of interest. It's just a wild reminder of how one tiny little anomaly can completely unravel our understanding of a space.
Section 2. The internet digs deeper.
Now, an isolated finding like that, it doesn't just stay hidden on a single user's hard drive for long. The sheer frantic pace of this modern internet investigation was insane. The escalation was super rapid. Within just one single hour, the initial coordinates were blasted across public forums. By the 12-hour mark, dedicated Reddit threads had completely exploded, pumping out hundreds of theories to explain the unexplainable. And within 24 hours, users were already running advanced image enhancement software. They were adjusting contrast, tweaking brightness, and extracting deeply unsettling hidden visual details from the pixels that the naked eye completely missed. The speed at which this collective deep dive happened is just remarkable to observe.
Section 3. Shifting satellite shadows.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the objective comparison we're forced to make. Up until now, we've basically been dealing with a static image, right? On one hand, we have that original, heavily glitched, but still static anomaly that kicked off the whole investigation. But on the other hand, we have the updated view. We're talking chilling reports of active, moving, and disappearing details that users observed in subsequent sessions. Investigators quickly realized that the shadows were actually changing in ways that absolutely did not align with natural solar movement. I mean, this completely shatters the illusion of Google Earth just being a giant photograph. It strongly suggests an active, potentially manipulated environment where digital details were being altered in near real time, literally right in front of the internet sleuths who were watching it.
Section 4. The sudden censorship.
The narrative now takes a turn into what I think is the most terrifying phase, the active removal of data. So the really crucial point here is just how methodically this erasure was executed. Look, it's one thing to find something weird on the internet. We've all done that. But it is an entirely different, way more frightening experience to watch that weird thing be actively erased while you are still looking at it. The realization that the internet's collective discoveries were being actively monitored and then systematically wiped out added this really heavy layer of paranoia. The alleged cover-up basically happened in two distinct phases. Step 1 was a crude blurring of the anomaly. Users logging back in found that those crisp, albeit totally strange pixels they had been analyzing were suddenly obscured by a heavy, deliberate digital smudge. And then Step 2? Well, that escalated the censorship to the absolute maximum. It was the complete removal of the coordinates from the map. Trying to search for that exact string of numbers suddenly just gave you an error. The digital evidence was surgically removed.
Section 5. Chaos and cover-up theories.
The second those coordinates vanished, the paranoia really set in, and the online investigation entered its most chaotic act. The internet essentially split into a few different camps, all desperately trying to explain the unexplainable.
One camp pointed to a totally mundane technical glitch to explain the missing data. Nothing to see here, right? But another major camp strongly argued for a literal military cover-up. They pointed to the heavily blurred zones as classic, undeniable signs of classified installations. And then, inevitably, a third group pointed straight to supernatural phenomena to explain the bizarre, shifting imagery that completely defied physical logic. When you look at it, each theory was really just a desperate attempt to regain some sense of control over a deeply, deeply unsettling digital experience.
They don't want us to see what's really down there. That single quote, pulled directly from those frantic social media discussions at the time, perfectly captures the prevailing sentiment. Honestly, it doesn't even matter who the they is in this context. The intense paranoia that totally gripped these online communities stemmed from this undeniable proof that their view of the world was being curated, filtered, and, when deemed necessary, completely censored. It really speaks to a deep-seated collective fear that our digital window to reality is controlled by gatekeepers who might be hiding massive, potentially earth-shattering truths from us.
And that brings us right to the chilling, completely unresolved conclusion of our source material. The explainer doesn't wrap things up with a neat, tidy little answer. Instead, it ends with this ominous reflection on the very nature of forbidden knowledge. It puts forward the idea that maybe, just maybe, in our relentless, obsessive drive to map, catalog, and expose every single inch of our planet, we might stumble across things that are simply meant to stay hidden from human eyes. It's a pretty humbling thought, honestly, because despite all of our incredibly advanced satellite technology and this massive network of crowdsourced intelligence, there are clearly still boundaries we're not permitted to cross, and shadows we just cannot illuminate.
So, I want to leave you guys with this final, truly provocative thought. If a massive community of internet sleuths could watch a physical location be actively erased from our digital maps in real time, it really begs the ultimate question. What else is hiding just out of frame? Seriously, think about it. Every single time you scroll across a digital map, what heavily blurred zones, what missing coordinates, and what hidden truths are you completely unaware of? Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive today. Stay curious, keep questioning the world around you, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.